Last video, I explained how Jesus made the clearest divine claims in John 10 and 12, contrary to what skeptics argue. By saying he was sent by the Father, he was identifying himself as the member of the Trinity who redeemed Israel from slavery and led them to the Promised Land. He was claiming to be the angel of Yahweh. But here's the question: why didn't Jesus just say, I am the angel of Yahweh? Wouldn't I was sent by the Father make him sound like a prophet, not God? No, the answer is absolutely not. Here is the truth. Jesus intentionally used the verb to send rather than explicitly calling himself Malach Yahweh to strategically reveal his divine identity. His brilliance is shown through his methodical and strategical way of utilizing the advantages while avoiding the disadvantages of the languages involved in Scripture, both Old Testament and New Testament, and providing the perfect Old Testament context to lead people to the conclusion that Jesus is God. Let's start by talking about Koine Greek, the language that the New Testament was written in. God intended Greek to be the language the New Testament was going to be written in because Pax Romana was the perfect time for the gospel to spread after the resurrection. The Roman Empire had conquered vast territories and built roads for fast, reliable travel. Greek was a universal language across the Roman Empire. This allowed the gospel to travel far and fast. This means that whatever Jesus spoke, he had to anticipate what the Greek words his statements would be translated into. So, let's imagine Jesus used the term Malach Yahweh. What problem would have arisen? The Greek translation for Malach Yahweh is Angelus Kyriou. Angelus is the word for angels in Greek, which would have caused massive problems if Jesus used Malach Yahweh, because Angelus had already lost the depth of meaning that Jesus needed to get people to think of. Instead, Angelus had become synonymous with the species of heavenly beings, losing the connotation of messenger with divine authority. Jesus needed a different word. Jesus needed his words to be translated into a Greek term that captured the role and authority of Malach Yahweh, not just a species of angels. Apostello is a word that served that purpose better. This word means to send, someone with a commission, or to send out with delegated authority. That specific definition was carried by a very important word in Aramaic. Jesus most definitely used the Aramaic word shalach, which has the same meaning to the Hebrew word shalach. However, Aramaic has great advantages over Greek or Hebrew. Unlike the Hebrew language of the Old Testament, the Aramaic word shalah has a noun form, shaliah. In fact, at the time of Jesus, Jews were borrowing the Aramaic word to mean a sent one in that legalistic term. And about the advantages over Greek, shaliah carries a connotation that apostello does not. Apostello suggests delegated authority, while shaliah implies total identification with the sender. Therefore, when Jesus kept saying he was sent by the Father in Aramaic, he was instilling the idea of sent one with the authority of the Father, who is as the Father himself. Now, here is how he put all the pieces of the puzzle together. He connected all of that with Isaiah 48, which points to that Shaliah being the creator of the universe, who is the first and the last, which is a title of God. He then connected all of that with Psalm 82, where Malach Yahweh is higher than the highest of heavenly beings. That only naturally leads to Psalm 83, that continues the theme of divine judgment, where the psalmist identifies Malach Yahweh as Yahweh himself, and gives him credit for what Yahweh did when Yahweh judged the Midianites. Of course, since the Jewish authorities were reminded of Judges, they would have been taken to the part in Judges where Malach Yahweh told the Israelites that he was the one that led them out of Egypt, the land of slavery, by redeeming them. Now, you might be asking, doesn't connecting Malach Yahweh with the sent one make Malach Yahweh just a delegate of Yahweh with the authority? Again, the answer is no. Although Jesus claimed to be the Shaliah of the Father, and in turn Malach Yahweh, if we look at the whole biblical context, Malach Yahweh was more than just a mere delegate. In Genesis 24, the oldest servant of Abraham was given the authority of Abraham. But we can see that never does the servant act like Abraham, speak as if Abraham, nor declare to be Abraham. Never do we see any delegates say that they are the senders themselves, nor do they take credit for what the senders have done, even though legally they might be as the senders themselves. Even Joseph, whom the Pharaoh placed over all of Egypt and said, "Only with respect to the throne will I be greater than you," never claimed to be Pharaoh. Yet we do have Malak Yahweh reveal himself to be the sender and take credit for what the sender did, which again shouldn't be allowed. Remember, angels cannot do any of what Malak Yahweh did without being considered fallen. And we know that Malak Yahweh wasn't lying or fallen since the narrator affirms what Malak Yahweh did and said as proper. Note, the narrator is a third person omniscient narrator with the purpose to exposit with clarity, not to entertain. Thus, there is no reason for hiding true identity for the sake of a big reveal later, or any information for a plot twist later on. We can safely conclude that Malak Yahweh is Yahweh, and Jesus, by claiming to be the one sent by the Father, was revealing that he is Yahweh. In fact, his "I was sent by the Father" was the strongest, boldest, and clearest of all divine claims with the context of Isaiah 48, Psalm 82 and 83, and finally, Judges 2 and 6. This wasn't Jesus dodging a divine claim, it was the boldest and most brilliant unveiling of his divinity, crafted across languages and centuries of scripture. Thus, this concludes my two-part project about Jesus' statement, "I was sent by the Father." I hope this removes some doubts about Jesus claiming to be God. Thank you for watching, and if this video helped you, please leave a like, and if you are new, please subscribe. Bye-bye.